All right, so welcome to our next Scouching report, and today's subject is Rouyn-Noranda Huskies center Bill Zonnon, who is a heck of a hockey player. Zonnon wears number 6. He will be in black or white, depending on the game. And just as a brief background on who Bill Zonnon is a really impressive, high-energy, high-paced center who plays the game in a way that I think projects really well to the NHL, especially in a playoff-like situation where things are tough, things are physical, things are intense, and the game is fast. And, the goals aren't pretty. The overall quality of play can be a little bit so good that it's sloppy in a way, if that makes sense. And I think Bill Zonnon plays a way that fits really well into a style of play like that. So what we're going to do in this series is, if you're unfamiliar, I watch games of junior hockey prospects and gather data from their performances, and then we can look at the video and reflect on what we see and what the player brings to the game, maybe some areas of potential improvement. And what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through these clips that I've pulled one at a time and just highlight some of the best and maybe not so best areas of Bill Zonnon's game. And for the record, Bill Zonnon is in the middle of my first round. He's been a big riser for me over the course of the entire season. And I'm really excited about this. So let's dig into the video and see what Bill Zonnon can do. So we're just going to get into sort of the hockey sense and mentality side of things first, because I think that's the best thing to lead with Zonnon especially. And so Zonnon's here. He is number 6, just off of a face-off here. So the first thing I want to do is lead off with hockey sense and sort of the thinking category that I like to start with. And so Bill Zonnon is out here just off of a face-off, and just watch the sort of work rate that he shows on this play. Chasing a guy down low, staying on him. Zonnon's a pretty big guy, 6'2", pretty good reach and knows how to use it. Wraps his stick around the opponent really, really well. And this is a good palate cleanser for the kinds of things that we're going to see Bill Zonnon doing a little more of in the future. This is a really good back check from Zonnon here as well. So he's this guy, the sort of third man in, and the puck doesn't get to him here, but just watch him on the back check. He sticks with it the whole way, keeps up with the pace of play really well, and then takes a really good route to stay in a passing lane there between him and number 16 on Rimouski. Just a simple little thing. And again, something that I noticed was a pattern with Zonnon was this is a guy who definitely is responsible at both ends and has a good sense of how to stay in the way of play and affect things such that it minimizes opportunity for the opponent, right? Like, this is not an option for pretty much anybody now, right? So if this puck comes out and goes this way, it's not getting through. It's just a really, really good sense of positioning and everything on the back check there. This is a similar thing, but I think he overcommits a little bit on this back check and maybe doesn't shoulder check as much as he probably should. I think he's just more focused on motoring back. And this highlights a bit of a hint of an issue with Zonnon, is that the footwork isn't amazing here with his skating work in fine situations like this. Like on pivots like this, he kind of doesn't explode out of those pivots. It doesn't really generate a ton of speed, and guys can create a bit of a gap on him. But we'll get into that a little more later on. Right now, I just want to focus on the mentality of this 200-foot responsibility and all of those things that I think he does really, really well. And this is a really, really good offensive zone play here from Zonnon. I mean, great positioning. If this puck comes out, which it probably should at this point, he's in a great position to get a good scoring chance. But it doesn't come to him. Sticks along the boards. He covers that ice. A nice little check along the boards. Guy hits the deck. They get out of the defensive zone, his opponent does, but on that play, it's more about that intensity level, that willingness to get physical in the offensive zone and try to pin play in there. This is a really good back check here from Zonnon again, and this is a guy who last season, I don't remember playing a whole lot of center, and I do think Zonnon took a little bit of time this year to get comfortable in that position and really sort of flourish there, because I think he did. And this defensive coverage, I mean, he's stepping up for a defenseman here, and I think he does a really, really good job gapping up, getting going, skating backwards, and sticking with this man here in front and just tying him up on the way to the net. And this is the kind of thing that I really, really want to see centers doing, right? And I do like seeing them tested defensively like this and see how things go. And I think a lot of criticism has been pointed at exactly how Zonnon skates around the ice. But for me, he does generate a pretty good amount of power. And I think that this is a good example of how he's able to find his way around the ice, put himself in good position, and support line mates, which I think is a really, really important talent to showcase. This is another one I want to highlight just because of how Zonnon sticks with this play. Obviously, I think this breakout pass isn't amazing. I mean, a pretty soft backhand, and Zonnon's facing pressure pretty much immediately on this play, and he tries to make a play. It gets bobbled again. That's a nice little play there from 91, but he just sticks with it throughout the whole thing, and they manage to gain possession back, and a lot of that is from that secondary effort from Zonnon, and it's that pressure play. What happens when he's under pressure, loses the puck. He just, he's not even on his feet, and he uses his arms to knock the puck free, and they manage to gain possession. So this is a guy who competes. He is competitive. He stays in the battle. He does the things you kind of want a player to do. Even if he's not on his feet or something, or a strange breakout pass like that, he stays with it. plays a team game, and they manage to rally around that and figure it out. I mean, this is becoming sort of a broken record at this point, but Zonnon is in here on the forecheck. He is this guy off the screen a little bit there. So just watch him as he anticipates this little play on the retrieval, gets right in there, stick lift, and then down low again, and now they have possession in a pretty dangerous spot. So good read, good anticipation, and really quick on the forecheck there. Again, a really, really good supportive defensive position here from Zonnon. So this defenseman is obviously taking care of this situation, and Zonnon is just supporting all of this open space here. And I think he does a great job monitoring this rush, tracking it down low, cutting off that pass, and supporting 55 along the boards here. And then he just takes off, right? You can question his skating stride or whatever, sure, but he seems to get around the ice just fine in my work and in my opinion. And again, really good on that forecheck, on that retrieval. I do want to highlight on this play, once that puck gets into the offensive zone and it's along the boards, he fends off pressure and also makes the pass attempt in one fluid motion. And I think that is a really, really clever move and something that you want to see more of, because again, it frees up the puck quickly. If there's support, they should be there. They should get to that open space. And a guy like Zonnon, he's big and strong, and so definitely utilizing that to his best advantage rather than just eating the puck along the boards and turning it into a 50-50 battle or something is a really good move. And I thought this was worth sharing. This doesn't get executed perfectly, but again, good supportive positioning here from Zonnon in the neutral zone, just waiting for this puck to sort of enter this space and see what happens, and if he wants to jump in, and he does. He fetches this, it's a nice little turnover there generated by Antonin Varot. This doesn't go his way on that behind the back pass, but it is a hint of, I think, what we're going to see more of in this video, where Zonnon is a creative playmaker. I think there is a bit of this thinking on the fly under pressure that I think really projects really well to the NHL, that I think Zonnon brings really in a positive way. So obviously not the most amazing backhand pass there. It's not really fully in the sort of wheelhouse of really getting a lot of power behind it, but the idea is there, and I can sort of see where he was coming from. It's just, it didn't work out on that one. And this is kind of what I'm talking about in terms of the playmaking and the creativity in a way that I believe is really high end. So Zonnon is here on the offensive zone entry here, gets the puck, and he just kind of waits again that extra second. We talk a lot about this in this video series of these players who are capable of taking just that extra half second, that extra quarter second to outweight the opposition and put themselves in a better position, right? And in that position, Zonnon could have just fired the puck on the net, right? He could have just grabbed it and rifled it from inside the faceoff circle and gotten a pretty good scoring chance himself. Defenseman goes sprawling out, which to me is a last ditch effort to block a pass or block a shot or something, and he just waits and gets a clean pass around the defenseman there. So he took advantage of what I think is a mistake from that player in a really good way, in a really creative way, and I think made a much more dangerous situation out of a potentially just really basic shot on net from mid-range. This is what I love to see out of young players, right? This next level sort of thinking of anticipation and creativity to sort of make something more dangerous happen. So here's Zonnon again, thinking on the fly and sort of in a strange way almost turning it over, but a creative way of getting out of the defensive zone. And so I look for players with a lot of options in various situations, guys who I can tell are thinking, okay, here's what I can do in this situation to keep the play moving forward. Here's maybe an idea. Here's, I need to adapt to this situation that's just presenting itself. I'm going to try this and try this and try that, right? It's not just that Zonnon will just rifle it down the ice or chip it into the neutral zone or whatever. He is looking around, and on these breakout opportunities, he's finding ways to make clean opportunities, and he was a very, very efficient offensive transition player, analytically speaking, in my sample. So there's a lot of potential here, I think, with this guy, and I think that this is a play that's a small example of exactly what I'm talking about. And again, offensive zone turnover, real quick, just throws it out in front and creates a scoring chance. This is something that happened significantly more as the year went on in my data sample for Bill Zonnon. I was honestly a little bit confused in the first few games that I saw and tracked of where his offense exactly was coming from, even though I was a big fan of this player. But you see the pieces coming together as the year went on, and you saw these moments of just really clever playmaking, whether it was off the boards or off the rush or something like that. He did a really good job with all of these situations more and more and more as the time went on in this year, and I feel like at the end of the season he was quite a real solid offensive zone player, and I think this is a good example of just how quick he was thinking towards the end of the year, along with those more creative moments that we've seen already. So a thing with Zonnon is that generating speed isn't really his forte super quickly, right? He is a bit of a big kid, but the skating stride does limit his ability to generate speed. But on this play, you see just a really quick moment of clean passing into the offensive zone, which is what a good center should be capable of doing, especially one that isn't an elite skater. And so for me, this ability to sort of put a pass on the backhand, protect the puck for a split second and just chip it to an open man in the offensive zone. Seeing this over and over and over again, it's something that you really, really want to see. Good support from a faster player like Antonin Varro, and a really, really good play there from Zonnon on that entry, I think. This is another example of that extra quarter second of patience, right? And I would love to see this more in hockey, right? So Bill Zonnon there, just a quick turn. That extra little bit, it seems very minor, but in my opinion, in the game of hockey, like baiting and deceiving and changing things up on the fly is so important. Bill Zonnon in this situation, in this moment, very easily could just toss the puck out of the zone this way in the neutral zone. And I see that infinite more times than what I see Bill Zonnon do here, which is just wait, pull off the boards, and now look what you've got, right? They do this a lot in Europe from my experience, and maybe it's just anecdotal, but my experience watching European hockey is there's a lot more of this east-west hockey. So generally, when you are on the forecheck, look at where all of the players are on the midline of the ice here, right? You've got the middle of the ice going up this way, basically, right? And so almost every single member of the Mooseheads are probably rightfully on the right side of the ice here where the puck is. They're on the strong side. But what does that mean? Hockey's a game of open space. If you can find open space, you can play and you can move and you can get into the offensive zone. So Zonnon finding a way to get the puck into the middle of the ice when you've got 1, 2, 3, arguably 4 Halifax Mooseheads not really in the zone of influence of this player, you now have all of this to play with. You've got a great skating defenseman. They can exploit that space. You know, Carl Steiner is here. He can swing out. Maybe he can make himself an option on the right wing. It's just a matter of giving yourself options, maintaining possession of the puck, and moving the puck up the ice in a creative way that I think Zonnon exhibited many times. And by default, to me, that puts him pretty high on my board. Just that ability to sort of make those decisions where I'm not just thinking straight up the ice. I'm not always just going to think, power this up the ice somehow. I'm going to think about all of my options. Can I go laterally if it means I can still get the puck up the ice? So this is just one example, but there were quite a few with Zonnon where he just had that extra half second of thinking. This is another one, and I think it's even less time, but he hesitates. I'm almost certain on this play that he's hesitating on purpose. So he just receives the pass, pretty clean here, right, along the boards. He's facing a bit of pressure, and again, he could just turn and rifle this up the ice, right? There's 3 guys in his own end, so that means there's 1 in the neutral zone somewhere. Maybe he just shoots it into the neutral zone, hoping the other guy's there. But what does he do? He waits until he has this, right? So let me just back up a few seconds here. And on this pass reception, right, he gets the puck to this guy, okay? So in this situation with this triangle going on here, that seems difficult. But then just a split second later, he stops up. This guy turns away. This guy's going this way. This guy's not keeping up as much. And now you've got an open lane. And again, look at this open ice here. It turns this situation into this situation. And to me, a guy who's able to just wait a fifth of a second, maybe, and just stop up for and create that slight difference in velocity to create space, it matters a lot. It makes life so much easier. And now look, they have a wide open man in the offensive zone, and they're often running off to the races, right? Easy peasy. So that's what I love to see out of guys in the NHL draft. These kinds of hockey sense techniques and styles of play that I think translate no matter how fast the NHL is, right? If you can mess around with how fast everyone else is or where they are going, it is a huge asset to have, in my opinion. This is a really nice path to the net Zonnon takes here. So yeah, he's curling away from the flow of play here, but he's in wide open ice and he's going to turn around and just draw himself into the middle of the ice here. And again, you can see it. If I'm Bill Zonnon here, I'm going, okay, this guy's not awake. This guy over here is occupied. I can just probably sneak my way in through here. And that's exactly what he kind of does. He floats in. And now here, yeah, again, he takes another creative little route, right? He's got 2 dudes in front of him here. That's not ideal. So what does he do? He cuts around this side and cuts into this gap and manages to get himself a scoring chance right in front. So this is a guy going to the net, works hard, does the things you want a center to do, plays hard, competes, he's supportive defensively, he's got some speed to his game, and he's really, I think, smart. I think a really smart player who I certainly value a lot. And again, some good off-puck anticipation in the offensive zone. This is just a simple retrieval for Halifax here, but here comes Bill Zonnon. Poorly handled along the boards, and there he is. Great read, picks it up, and off he goes. Sets up an offensive cycle, right? I love him. There's just so much that we're going to get to that is just so good. He might be one of the most underrated players on the draft for me. So here comes Zonnon again on a forecheck. Again, this, if you're in the queue and this happens, your goalie sort of sends a backhand off the boards and Bill Zonnon's coming after you in your own end, look out. It's not going to be very fun for you. Because here he comes, throws some good rates of hits in the games that I tracked as well. So this is a guy who throws his body into the boards as well. This is a guy who does pretty much everything you want someone to do. And this is just another example of him being a really, really good forechecker. And I think Bill Zonnon's a really nice example of a player who plays center. And the way he plays, I think he could play center in the NHL. But if he doesn't, I could very easily see this guy being a winger on a third line, fourth line maybe, and be perfectly fine. And I think that would be great. And I think that's also valuable, where you're drafting centers and you go, I think they have the flexibility to move around my lineup if I need to find a role for them. And I think he's capable of pretty much fitting in a lot of different slots as a complementary offensive player with a bit of physical tools. And here he comes again, just a really, really nice physical play here in the defensive end. He's in this interaction here, just causes a bit of havoc, and a good hard stick check wins possession. Not the best pass off the boards to whoever was there to help him, but the idea was there. The defensive play was there and the physical tools are there. This one was almost really, really cool. So you've got Zonnon in here, down low in the offensive zone, support. Defenseman causes a turnover here. Zonnon's right there, picks up the loose puck, and then he just goes for a skate. And again, this was that end of the year type play that I loved out of Zonnon the last few times I saw him. And again, a little shimmy shake on this little fly route around the outside of the offensive zone right here. Valdor might be thinking, he might be going for a pass here. Maybe if he saw a pass option there, he might go for it. But he kind of just does a little shimmy shake, whoop, and down he goes, down below the goal line. A teammate basically skates right into him, so that's not ideal, but still manages to get a pass through to a teammate. But just a really, really nice little rush in the offensive zone, or a little skating route in the offensive zone that I thought was also pretty cool. And you just see this out of Zonnon all the time. Under pressure, these quick little passing decisions that find ways to get pucks into the offensive zone. And he honestly was one of the best players in my data set at actually finishing these passes. Lots and lots and lots of players I tracked throw a lot of passes out in front of the net. They throw a lot of passes out into scoring areas, which I believe is better than nothing. But Zonnon connected on a lot of them. The volumes might not have been as high, but he was hitting guys in the slot and in the medium range areas a lot with his passing, to the point where I really don't believe that it was just luck. I think this is just a guy who knows how to make quick, accurate, short range passes that can be that quick strike offense, right? Like when you watch hockey sometimes and you see a team get outshot 2-1 and they win 4-2, right? Let's say the Florida Panthers, they've been doing this for years. You wonder how it happens a lot of the time. And number one, yeah, it's great goaltending, but number two, it's this quick strike offense. They try to catch the opponent kind of sleeping a little bit. It's almost like there's structure, but no structure, right? These just, simple ideas. If you're off the puck, get to the net. If you're getting the puck down low, you know that your line mates are going to the net. So just throw it out in front, and you practice and practice and practice and practice. And I think you start to sort of gain a sixth sense of where your guys are going to be. And you give yourself these situations where one shot on goal can look a lot more dangerous than the previous 5 that your opponent took. And I think Zonnon is a good example of a guy who works into a system like that quite well. This whole clip really is just Bill Zonnon doing hard work in front of the net and just staying there, making himself a tipping threat like he is right here. And then again, in the offensive zone, just being a real jerk and causing a turnover and getting a good shot on net from medium range. You want the flashy, super skilled, super fun players. I get it. I do too. But you do need guys like Bill Zonnon. And I love them. I really do love watching these guys. And it's one of these guys where sometimes you can just tell with players that you almost don't need to interview them. You just kind of know from watching them play that they're winners. They're guys who go out there and do whatever they can to move the game in the right direction. They throw hits. They hound guys with their stick. They are selfless. They work with line mates really well. And I just feel like Bill Zonnon's the type of guy that I want on my team, in the room, doing all of these things. I would not be surprised if I really came off really, really liking him in an interview situation for an NHL team. Really, really good, almost wholesome player in the hockey sense of what wholesome might be, a bit nasty, but, selfless, team-oriented, physical, and just a really solid hockey player. And this is another example of exactly that, right? So Zonnon, again, tall kid, good reach, and he uses it really effectively here. Fetches that puck, slaps it out to a line mate at the blue line, goes straight to the net. And what does he do here? slot pass, and it almost creates a scoring chance. It's so impressive, just these sequences that he's put together. And there are players on my list I have lower that I would say almost every single person out there probably has higher, but I don't see these types of chaining together plays at a high pace of play and a high intensity level. I do not see that out of a lot of players, and they might be just as smart, they might be more skilled, they might have a better skating stride or something like that, but I watch Bill Zonnon and he's just constantly in motion, constantly putting things together, chaining plays together, right? Which in the NHL, the best of the best of the best of the best in the world can do that. They skate hard, they're fast, they dish the puck to someone else, they jump into the rush, they tic-tac-toe pass, give and goes, they go to the net, look for a tip, battle behind the net, all in the span of 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. So it's one thing to be really good at breakouts or a really good shooter or a really, really good playmaker or something. But if you can't stitch things together, if you can't do one thing and then another thing quickly after, and then another thing quickly after, and then another thing quickly after, it really limits your potential at even just getting these dirty chances here. So Zonnon is a great example of a player who I think just puts things together at a pace that I always look for. And that's what I talk about when I talk about guys who have pace. It's what I think projects to the NHL the best. Not necessarily are you being fast and skilled and a great shooter or anything, but can you put your plays together in such a way with your line mates that you're marching the play up the ice, you're running the play up the ice, and you are generating offense with many of your strides. You know, are you at least trying to create something with purpose every single time you take a step on the ice, right? And I think Zonnon is one of those players, and I think this is a good example of that style of play. And we were just talking about, oh, you might not be the most skilled or the most flashy player, but Bill Zonnon does have the capability of being a pretty fun to watch player. You know, these edges are pretty good. You know, his skating is pretty nice in this clip. This is from a long time ago in the season as well. So I think he's gotten a lot better since this point. But just that evasiveness, the skill level, you know, the willingness to work off the boards a little bit, it's all there. He's a fun player. You know, he does have this juice to him as well. He's got a bit of that in his game too, and that's fun. Zonnon might have been one of the best in my data set at generating turnovers in the offensive zone, and this is a good summary example of how that was possible. He's just hounding guys. He started this play out at the blue line. I mean, I don't know what more you want out of a player. Like the last few times I've seen Zonnon, he just keeps moving up my board because I'm going, I don't really have a whole lot of holes that I can poke in this guy's game. I just don't know if he's got elite NHL potential, but I watch this guy and I'm going to the NHL playoffs and going, boy, this kid would look good in these games. You know, watching teams like the LA Kings, you know, maybe a team like the Boston Bruins, even though they're not in the playoffs, you know, this play style, I think is what helps teams like that win in the playoffs. And again, getting from the blue line down low that quickly and hounding guys and then quickly turning play around and getting a puck out in front, again, chaining things together, chaining multiple things together with almost all of the strides he takes on this play, at least from here, right? From this moment onwards, he's thinking, I'm going to get this puck. I'm going to get this puck and I'm going to make something happen. And I'm sure that Antonin Varreau coming off the bench here goes, Bill's doing work. I'm going to get there. I'm going to do this. And he did exactly what he should. Again, not the most amazing skating stride or the most beautiful looking skater in the world, but he still does get the job done with the skill combination he does have. And this is a nice little pass that I pulled that I thought exemplified that. And this is at the end of the season. And I would have loved to see this more often out of him. You know, the skill level is there. He does that, you know, and gets down low, stays on the puck too, and manages to get the puck off. Again, think about the NHL. Everybody talks about how physical it is. Look at how he handles pressure at this level, right? Now, the Q is not the NHL, I will say that as well. But under pressure, he is calm and he's capable. There was double coverage at the end of that play. He was under pressure from two players. So in this situation, I look at a guy like Zonnon and I'm going, I want to build on this. You know, if I see a player at 17, 18 years old doing this is what I want to build on. Even if I don't think Bill Zonnon is going to be the next Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon or whatever, I think in the NHL draft, you have to draft players that you can look at and go, I can win with guys like this. These are guys that I think will help me win. And that's the ultimate goal. And I think Zonnon is a guy that does that. And I think there's overwhelming evidence of that from what I've seen. And especially watching this back now for the purposes of this video, it's really reminding me just how much I liked this guy and just how much potential I think there is, even as he is now in the NHL at some point. So again, on this play, I think you might be able to be critical and point out the skating stride. He kind of collapses on his feet a little bit rather than sort of gliding into every single step and everything. But I mean, you can work on that. You can work on these things, and he still manages to get the job done. And I think when you put all the pieces together, you still have a guy who, again, has a lot of potential, especially with a couple of years, maybe refining his skating stride a little bit. But I wouldn't be too critical of it based on how he gets the job done. Somehow, Bill Zonnon turns this into a failed but attempt at getting the puck into the slot. You see Bill Zonnon's leg there? That's him. There's 3 guys from the Armada against him in the defensive zone. So let's look at this clip, right? Find Bill Zonnon. This isn't him. This isn't him. This isn't him. And this isn't him. So where is he? See these 3 guys here? He's there. He manages to turn this into a slot pass attempt that doesn't go completed, but it almost does. And when you see the whole clip, you see this guy just down low, grinding it out. And again, triple coverage in this situation. He is just not supposed to escape this situation, and he finds a way to get the puck off the boards. I love that. You know, the more you see it, and the more you see it in the NHL and how important it is to do that, the more you start to sort of focus on different things in the NHL draft, I think. And I think a lot of fans might sort of underestimate, you know, just how different the NHL is from a lot of junior leagues and everything, and what skills you need to succeed in the NHL. I might be off base, but this is my understanding, is that when I look at guys like Bill Zonnon, I see guys where I go, yep, I could put this guy over the boards in the NHL. He's fearless enough, big enough, strong enough, physical enough, and I think he can be a difference maker in the NHL. I could very easily see a guy like Bill Zonnon be an overtime playoff hero who, you know, just finds a way to bash in a puck from the rebound that he causes from some sort of turnover that he causes below the goal line, or, you know, is the tertiary assist from a defensive zone turnover that he generated that moves the puck into the offensive zone and scores that wouldn't have happened without him. Like, he just seems like that type of player to me with the way that he plays, the way he gets around the ice, and just the way he's wired. It just seems to be that type of player to me. Maybe I'm too galaxy brained or too predictive on that, but he exudes that style of play for me. So again, really good defensive supportive position here from Zonnon, basically in line with his defenseman here, and deep in the defensive zone, sort of monitoring what his line mates are doing, and he'll just get the puck here and he is off, gone, right? Again, not the most beautiful looking skater, but boy, you can't tell me he doesn't get moving. And then he participates in that offensive rush. Again, check, 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 check boxes, check, check, check. He's doing so many things right, in my opinion. And the areas of improvement, I don't think are very far away in this video. But I'm not going to lie, there's not very many things that I pulled where I went, this was a pattern of issues for him. The data, I think there is more, which we'll get into, but I mean, we can just let this stuff speak for itself, honestly. This is another play where he's just grinding things out along the boards and finding ways to get the puck off the boards and into more dangerous areas of the ice. You know, it's just, I don't know. You watch this guy and it kind of, the reports kind of write themselves, in my opinion. You know, we did Cullen Potter in one of these videos recently, and I would love to show him this video and go, see, you're faster than this Bill Zonnon guy, and watch what he does on this play, right? He doesn't just cross the puck across his body and just take a forehand shot from the faceoff dot. Go to the net, challenge the goaltender right in front of him, get in his face. That you have the speed and the skill to do it. Bill Zonnon does not have Cullen Potter's speed or skill, but he has the tenacity. He has that willingness to go, I can get around this defenseman. I can fight him off. I can get through this. And I want that. I don't want guys shooting from the perimeter. You could give me, you know, look at Alexander Holtz, right? Guy who shot the lights out in junior hockey in Sweden. What was the problem with him? He shot from the boards. He shot from the blue line. He shot from outside the face-off dots. He was shooting from places where you don't score. You could be the greatest shooter to ever walk the earth at 17, 18 years old. If you can't get to the net, it is so much more difficult to score in the NHL. And I think Bill Zonnon, again, a player who so rarely for a long time shot the puck at all. But over time, I think got more and more confident and more tenacious and more aggressive. And I think he was greatly rewarded for that. And in the last couple of games I saw, he was driving some good rates of shots from dangerous areas for sure. So here's Zonnon again on the rush, and watch his shoulder check. Watch his head. 1, 2 shoulder checks, gets the puck down low, and a quick little pass. Obviously, a play like this also really depends on good line mates and supportive line mates and a good structure, which is obviously pivotal stuff if you're a coach. But just the intensity level here and the awareness to look around, know where his line mates are. And again, this is another example of Zonnon getting pucks off the boards accurately. He completes these passes, getting them to line mates under pressure, and unlike a lot of other players in this draft class, I'll just say that, that to me matters. The NHL is chaos, and if you can have a little bit of control in that chaos, it gives you an advantage. So I think Zonnon might be one of those guys. This is just a psycho pass. Like the passing lane he's trying to get through here, he gets the pass to this dude. So you're looking at getting the puck through this pretty much, and he does it clean. Bam. What a play. If you can do this more, I don't know where he goes, but he is sick. I don't know what to say at this point. We're just seeing so many cool things that he's doing. That pass, I remember this and going, oh, because this was around the time of the year where he was pretty quiet in terms of 5-on-5 offense, but then he would pop for something like this, and I'm going, well, that was cool. Let's see what we can do with this, see where this goes. And by the end of the year, yeah, it felt like he was a lot more comfortable with this kind of thing. I don't know what in the hell the Halifax defense is doing on this play, but I'm just going to let this go. And you can watch Zonnon, number 6 in black. I'll just let it go, because this sequence, I will never forget it. This was earlier in the year, and this was when I kind of was like, oh, this guy might be better than I think he is, because of, again, how much he's chaining together. How many times on this sequence, which is a 20-second long clip, how many times did Bill Zonnon do something that moved the play in the right direction, right? Pickoff, 1. Offensive entry, 2. Pass, 3. Pass, 4. Follow up below the goal line, 5, pass out to the circle there. Go to the net, shot on net off a rebound in open space. 6, 7 on the rebound, scores a goal. So you're looking at less than every 3 seconds. Bill Zonnon was doing some kind of play here that marched the play up the ice and did it while skating hard, being supportive, some physical moments in here, working his way to the front of the net. What do you want out of a player, right? The only areas where I can sort of pick through his game are fundamentals or technicals, or, he's not as skilled as Porter Martone, or he's not as creative as James Higgins, or he's not as brilliant of a hockey mind as Michael Misa, or, say what you will. But God, man, there's just so many things here with Bill Zonnon where it kind of got to the point over the course of the season where I'm watching him play and I'm going, all these guys I have ahead of him, I have a lot less fun watching those guys. I think they're safe, dependable, regular old guys, but Zonnon does it in a way that I think works really well in the NHL. Chaining things together, working off of line mates, just a lot of good things happening in sequence quite quickly, and I think that's hard to find. And fittingly, that was the last clip of the sort of good stuff that I wanted to walk through with Zonnon, so I hope I kind of get the point across of exactly what Zonnon brings to the game. I only have a couple of clips here that I would say exemplify some areas of potential weakness, and I think the data speaks better to what some areas of Zonnon's game that are a bit of a hole are. And we'll get to that in a second, but Zonnon, I said earlier, a lot of the issues are more technical, generating speed, skating quality, efficiency with his stride. I think those are things that are questionable. In this situation, staying on his feet. Again, he's a physical guy, but I didn't see it as much as I kind of wanted to. And again, closing these gaps a little bit quicker with your skating ability, especially with the reach that he's got, I think is going to unlock a ton of defensive potential for him, because the big issue for me was that, especially in long stretches, he felt very absent from rushes going either direction, but he has the capability, especially offensively, to be much better at it. And I think this was just a very simple example of something that was a bit of a pattern where you kind of looked at him and said, okay, the physical play I love and all of these things I love, but then once in a while you just see him a step behind, just not quite putting in enough to get the job done. But I am kind of grasping at straws at this point, right? And this clip kind of highlights a bit about what I mean by that. So on this one, I can't really fault him for what happens immediately, trying to stop up and gap up and create a bit of a separation there. But then on the back check here, this opponent kind of just manages to maintain a pretty good gap on him, and then Zonnon is forced to rely on his reach a little bit. This is kind of where skating efficiency can matter. These tight situations off the puck defensively where you just need to stick with your man and gain good body positioning and advantageous defensive positioning. And I think he just kind of struggles to do that here. And I did see that a few times where that's what drove a lot of his sort of low involvement in defensive rushes in the games that I tracked and everything. But it wasn't terrible, but it was just a sign of why the areas of improvement for him largely around just generating speed quickly and efficiency with his skating stride. Those areas I think are going to be pretty important to improve to hit his ceiling. But I mean, I think his ceiling is pretty high if he fixes those things. This was early in the season, so I don't want to be too critical, but he was playing center early in the year, and I'm pretty sure he was a winger last year. And I think this defensive awareness was something that definitely got a lot better as the year went on, and I think we saw a lot of evidence of that. But it's something to note. You have Zonnon over here, you have this open ice here, and it just kind of goes largely ignored, right? And until it's too late. And Zonnon, there's no way he's catching up here. There's nothing going his way here, and that's an easy goal. Obviously not a nitpicky thing for me. I think it did get a lot better as the year went on, but it was a note where Zonnon, if the puck was slowed down a little bit in the defensive end, he was a little bit out of position here and there, but nothing to the point where I'm going, oh my God, this guy doesn't know what's going on in the defensive zone. In fact, I think the opposite is true. I think working on defensive rushes and everything to prevent possession and covering the front of the net, I think were strong suits in his game. And that's all we've got for Bill Zonnon. I mean, look, he's a player who has just shot up my boards, especially in the last couple of months. He's a guy who's in my top 15 now, and I just keep watching him. I remember watching him early in the year and thinking he was a pretty good power winger last year. We'll see what he does this year. And they moved him to center, and it took a little bit of time, and I was a little bit skeptical. But then after a couple of months and seeing December, January, Bill Zonnon come out to play, and he started heating up production-wise, that's when I started to go, okay, I see this sort of coming together now. And I mean, look, where I come down on Bill Zonnon, I think there's just so much there that when I watch the NHL, especially in the playoffs, I go, boy, there is a chance that this guy could be so pivotal. Maybe not as the premier guy on a playoff team, but as a really, really important glue guy on a playoff team. And I mean that in the best way possible, right? I like hockey that is played with inspiration and intensity, and you can tell that there is teamwork and sort of passion, you could say, in the style of play of a player. And I think with Bill Zonnon, there is that. Whereas guys might need to keep things simple, be more reactive, have more of a structure around them, and play a little slower and play a little bit, more reactive or whatever. With Zonnon, I just don't think that's in his mindset. I just don't think that's in his mind much. And I love that. I think that with Zonnon, at the highest levels of hockey, you have to play like he plays. If you don't, you're going to get exposed. Guys who play like Zonnon will win those puck battles. Guys like Zonnon will pressure your defenseman below the goal line. Guys like Zonnon will stick with you on defensive rushes all the way down the ice as best they can and try to tie up your stick and, turn the play around and cause those turnovers. And instead of trying to deke his way out of it, just find someone, hit someone with an accurate pass, keep it super simple and just get her done. And so with Zonnon, again, a lot of people have asked me over the year, like, why do you have Bill Zonnon ranked higher than Caleb Desnoyers? And I know that's a ridiculous thing on its surface. I am aware of how many points Caleb Desnoyers has scored. I am well aware. And I've seen a lot of Caleb Desnoyers. But when I watch both of them back to back, do I think Desnoyers has more skill? Do I think he has a better sense of playmaking timing? Yes, absolutely. I do. But I think Bill Zonnon has a lot of other things that don't necessarily show up on a score sheet that I would argue are more important. I think that if you took Caleb Desnoyers and swapped him with Bill Zonnon and put Zonnon on Moncton and Desnoyers on Rouyn-Noranda, I am not convinced that their production would be mirrored. I'm not convinced that Bill Zonnon would be a 120-point QMJHL player with how physical that team is and how intense that team is and how much skill there is on Moncton. Whereas with Rouyn-Noranda, I would say Antonin Verreau was really the only toy that Zonnon had to play with consistently. Carl Steiner was on his line a lot. I thought he was okay, but I came away thinking that if you took Carl Steiner away from Bill Zonnon, Steiner would be significantly more limited as a player. He's still a good player, but Zonnon, I think, was such an important cog in this team's machine. So a really, really good player. I really, really like him. And I mean, so for me, I see a guy who chains plays together at high pace, staying with play, thinking on the fly, while also being able to have that delay game, that playmaking vision that I think definitely helps in all situations. And so, yeah, I might be wrong with my evaluation on where the Q falls this year, but I watch Bill Zonnon, and if I'm an NHL coach, I love this kid. I would be so thrilled to interview him and meet him and talk to him and get to know him and pick his brain a little bit, because I think all of the attention is on a different player in Quebec or a couple of different players in Quebec. But in terms of that heart and soul hockey player, that guy who goes over the boards, will take a stick in the face, bleed for his team, battle along the boards, and just constantly be involved and work with line mates and elevate their play. That to me is very, very, very valuable. And for me, that's the focus. Because when I watch the playoffs, I am never, ever thinking for a second watching the playoffs, wow, that guy timed that pass really, really well. Sometimes, sure, right? But most of the time, that's not what the playoffs are all about. When you want to win a Stanley Cup, it's about hard work. Who wants to win more, right? And when I watch a guy like Bill Zonnon, I go, this guy wants to win. This guy clearly wants to win. And I think that he has all the tools and the fundamentals to get there. He might not be the top guy in your lineup, but I think he gets there at some point. Some sort of very, very impactful player, and for me, that's why he's in my top 15. Analytically speaking, we can take a quick look at his analytical profile here, and then we can let you get out of here. Bill Zonnon, to me, falls into a pretty good category of overall just pretty impactful on paper, but very efficient, especially offensively. Little bit of limited involvement in offensive zone transitions and defensive transitions, and I think a lot of that comes to just that lack of ability to generate speed quickly from a standing start and a bit of an inefficient skating stride, leaving him a little bit behind and a little bit more of a supportive player in transition and such. But I see all the potential in the world for this to improve, and I think it did improve over the course of the year. I think at the beginning of the year, he was one of the least involved transition guys that I've tracked and just didn't feel super comfortable in the position he was in, but by the end of the year, that had shifted. And the same thing happened with his shooting metrics. You might look at his shot metrics here and go, well, he's not shooting the puck much at all. But I'm telling you, in the first few games I did, he did not shoot the puck at all. It just was not a thing that he did. But by the end of the year, it was definitely something he did. And his shot selection is average, I would say. It's okay. But again, that's another thing that I think got a lot better as the year went on. I was a little puzzled early in the year, but as more time went on and I got more viewings of him, I started to feel a little better. Huge rates of shot assists, and I think that's no surprise. Really accurate passer for a forward, really good at generating offense for his line mates, pretty good contributor in terms of general offense, in terms of the offensive zone. Just overall, really, really solid. The hallmark of his profile is his offensive zone turnovers. That's forechecking, essentially. Just the ability to pin guys in the offensive zone and, kill breakouts before they even start is so important to me. And he's really, really good at that. So he checks all the boxes. There's all kinds of things that Zonnon brings to the table that I just love. And so, yeah, I love this kid. And I have all the hopes in the world for him. Whether he goes 10th overall or 40th overall, I don't know. I don't care. But whoever drafts him, I think is getting a good heart and soul kid who just loves the game, plays hard, plays the right way. I hate using those cliches, but when it works and when it fits, I can't avoid it. It's just a fact to me. So that's going to be it for this. And I hope you enjoyed. If you really liked the video, definitely like and subscribe to the channel. If you really, really loved it, I really would love for you to go to scouching.ca, give us a subscription. It really helps us out directly, helps fund our work and all of those things. So if you really loved it, check out scouching.ca. We got all kinds of cool perks you can check out there, like data tools. We got a fun Discord server and all kinds of other stuff you can check out. So all the best. We'll see you in the next one. Love this kid. I hope you do too. And we'll see you later.